Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. So it's interesting. Here we are, of course, at the start, and Facebook we can't even do the opening. So I'm gonna hopefully Steve's with us, or even Terry. I see you're with us. Tony, thanks for showing up. If you can go over to our YouTube stream, either on the Canadian Fishing Network or, of course, Scotty's Outdoors, please do so, because I have no idea what's going on with Facebook. It's starting to become extremely annoying, trying to get something to show up weekly and stay on. Facebook has a desire, an appetite anyway, to start taking away all the streams. Anyway, I hate starting on a negative note because it's Monday. There's enough negativity going on in the world. I just want to say, hey, how's it going? How was your weekend? Have you been fishing? Have you been catching fish? I know if you have, and you've managed to send them into our inbox, you will have the luxury of having beautiful edits done for you, much like this one. Danny Bacon, that is a gorgeous bowfin. And Steve Shaw is doing all these edits. Robert McLeod, beautiful perch, my friend. Beautiful, beautiful perch. Walter did this edit. Vanessa, fantastic. What a beautiful fish that is. Vanessa always seems to catch large fish like this one. And we hope that she continues to do so because we love featuring her on our page. And last but not least, this will look familiar to J-Dog, but this is Trevor with what looks to be a beautiful Chinook. It might be even his personal best. I'm not sure when that came in, if it is in fact his personal best, but judging by the look on his face, it's up there. Again, if you want your picture featured, and we could do this on Facebook without Facebook having any issues, send your photos or videos into our inbox at the Canadian Fishing Network Facebook page. We receive those, and we're able to turn around and do beautiful edits just like this. Steve and Walter and myself will do our best to try and get to all of them. But again, throw them in the inbox. That way we can know right away that it's okay to use, that we can use your names. Doesn't necessarily, we don't necessarily need where you're fishing. It'd be great if we know what you're fishing with. If you're okay telling us that, it'd be nice little things that we can add into the post. Sometimes, and I can speak to Steve and Walt on this one, we'd love having the more content we can add to the post. I think the more engaging it is for the person involved as well as the audience. So if there's tidbits of it, of your journey, something cool that happened while you're out there, it's great catching fish, but it doesn't necessarily mean it stops there. As I said, it's always about the journey. Let's have a look and see who is with us. We've got Jason Barnucz, who's on our live feed on YouTube again. If you're out there and you're watching and you're able to share the link in the comments, please do so we can get as many of you over to our YouTube channel. I have a feeling that going forward, we might just have to do this simply because I don't know what's going on with Facebook. I really don't, but I know we're not the only ones that are experiencing this. It is industry-wide. A couple of announcements. Obviously, if you don't know, you will know now. Fish with Apparel is the exclusive licensed CFN swag maker So I invite you to go over to fishwhippedapparel.ca. I know our beloved Babs is putting together the website, which will include a more readily accessible CFN page. So if you're looking to add the CFN pack, and as we go, we're going to be adding more swag to the menu, and hopefully you will be able to purchase some CFN merchandise. We're hoping before Christmas anyway. And, I hate to say that because it's so far away, but yet so near. But yeah, if you're looking for something cool for Christmas for someone that follows CFN, is a CFNer, or you want them to become a CFNer, by all means, this is how you would go about it. Outside of that, the only other announcement I want to make, of course, is our winner from last week. We spun the wheel. It was for the Flash Boost, which was donated by our beloved Shaw family. And the winner was, and there's your winner, Bill Landry. Congratulations, my friend. And that's it. So Bill will be reaching out to you so that we can get this beautiful Shimano Flash Boost out to you. But again, big shout out to the Shaw family. We're going to be doing a lot of more video giveaways like this. There's one that we're going to be doing with Jim that I think is going to be really cool for some of our next gen CFNers. Plus, we've got a lot of other prizes too that we have gone through the vault and found. So leading up to Christmas, I see us doing some giveaways. However, we need the audience. We need you folks. So hopefully you can get on YouTube. Hopefully we can figure out what's going on with Facebook. But yeah, this is nothing but a pain in the arse, to say the absolute least. On that note, I really don't have any more announcements other than we've got some videos coming up from our recent trip to Camp McIntosh. And again, thanks to the wonderful hosts over at Camp McIntosh for putting us up for the week. It was awesome. So we've got some videos that I know Moose and Mike Console are putting together that will include some of our wonderful sponsors as well as our beloved guests that showed up and spent some time with us. It was really, really cool. So look forward to the future. We will be making announcements in terms of the date for the CFN, the OFC Nation retreat at Camp McIntosh, as well as next year's CFN retreat up at Horwood Lake Lodge. So stay tuned to all of that, as well as some incredible posts that are going to be upcoming this week here on CFN, whether it's Tourney Tuesday, Trout Tuesday, Walleye Wednesday, Friday feature, Super Sunday, you name it. We got all kinds of stuff coming up. But speaking of super, we've got the big man up next. But before we do, we might as well play something. We might as well play music now that Facebook, we just started and they've already destroyed the feed. Big Jim's up next. Stay tuned. There he is, one and only Big Jim McLaughlin. Yeah, baby.
You notice?
Yo, look at you, all trimmed up. Are you? Is it a job interview? You're not leaving CFN, are you?
Yeah. Where am I going now?
I totally understand.
I told you the check hasn't cleared yet. It's been waiting 7 years?
Well, we're not going to have any checks clear with Facebook deleting our posts like it is. I just said I apologize to our viewers. Thanks to God. Thanks so much for all of those who have still found a way to show up and spend some time with us. We will do our best to try and entertain you. It is, yes, Steve, it's only on YouTube. Don't know what's going on with Facebook. It's becoming frustrating for anyone who is trying to promote something via social media, but we will weather through it as we always do with everything else. Jim, speaking of weathering through it, the weather has obviously changed your fishing a little bit. We've had the luxury of sitting back and seeing some gems pulled out of the back bay, but it seems things have changed.
It's cooling off out the back, and it's really funny because when you look at your Facebook memories, and this was one of the times was in the next 10 days, 2 weeks here.
Yeah.
Where I just last year was incredible. The number of and not just like solid like 3 pound plus fish, right up to 4.5s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like every other night you'd get 4 or 5. So it was kind of cool. But no, I'm sure it'll turn itself around. I don't know whether you saw that. I had the swans visit me last night.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It was really cool. And it was funny because at one point, I don't know if the dad or the mom, one of the two big ones, circled around by the dock, and it was coming up on the right-hand side there, and they started pushing water toward me. Oh. And I don't know whether it didn't like the looks of me or, I was wearing a Shimano hat. I don't know. What could he not like? And he started coming. I stood up in the chair, and he immediately veered away.
Oh.
Out of the chair. So it was kind of, and he went right back to the bunch, and they just all started eating again. They're eating my lily pads. I'm not impressed with them. There's not many left, but what the thing is, what they're eating is the roots, eh? You can see them.
Is that right? Okay.
You can see their necks are like, there's only like 20 inches of water on top of the shallow spot out there now.
Right.
And but it's amazing to see them get down there, and they're down there, and you can see them pulling and they pull out the roots. And that's why a couple of years ago there was no pads there all summer. They ate them all in the spring. Oh, they literally demoed that pad bed in the spring.
Now,
when they're like this big, and you see them under the water, they're light green. Yeah. They would just every night just through there like the buffet.
Now, do these swan hang around all year round, or they
a lot of them do. A lot of them just go down and hang out around the Cataraqui River on the 401 there.
Right.
They'll end up over in Dog Lake here. I have a picture last fall. I think there's 117 of them in the picture.
Holy
you just keep blowing it up and counting, you can see them. And when they get down below the Cataraqui where the open spot is there's hundreds of them.
Wow.
There's people there was a couple of people. I've already got messages from a guy that came from Europe a few years ago, and he saw me he asked me if these were the same swans that he filmed down in Lake Ontario by Kingston. He came all the way over from Europe to do a nature thing on those swans.
Wow.
And I remember seeing them out there. They were out in kayaks. It was like the middle of February.
Jeez.
They were out in kayaks filming them, and I guess they did a documentary on them and everything. But there's 2 or 3 different kinds. The ones that I've got here in the back are the really big ones, eh? When you see one of these up close, you realize, it's not like all the other swans I see. Because remember in the springtime, I had the one that chased the baby swan around.
Yep.
When the baby swan was like this, and that Canada goose, it paid the price, eh?
Yeah.
Because he went after it, beat the crap out of it, and it climbed up on the shore right down here beside where the boat was. And my daughter went down and said, "Daddy, there's a dead goose underneath the chair." And it beat the crap out of it, killed it. It got up on it. So you don't mess with the big boys.
Goes with nature, goes with regular life. Yeah, absolutely. Good advice.
Mother Nature, well, it bugged Tammy, eh? Like she thought, you look at these things, they're so elegant and beautiful, but don't mess with their kids.
No, 100%. Now I think you had told me there was maybe 5 or 6 of them that you typically show up.
Yeah, there's 5 in the group. There was 6. When they were about the size of a duck, one disappeared. I don't know whether it died or got eaten or, I'm sure the odd one gets snatched, It's,
100%.
It's what it is. But the 5 that are out here now, you can see the 3 that are the babies, but you have to look close to really realize it's amazing how much they've grown.
100%, and how big they can get. From strong necks, we go to strong poles. And I know, Jim, you've got all kinds of stuff that you want to talk about from Shimano.
Yeah, I got some of the new SLX rods. They eventually became available, and like they've been in stores for a while, but they don't like to send them to you when they can sell them. It's that's why I get guys saying to me, I haven't built my rod yet. Well, maybe when they have enough, they'll send you one. You know what I mean?
There you go.
They're in the business to sell them. They're not giving them away. We have to sell this many so we can give this many away. But I want to show you first thing the difference in them. People always hear me talk about parabolic rods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's the crankbait model. And now this is the one that I picked for chatterbaits. And I just picked one that was exactly the same as the chatterbait rod from Loomis. You can see it's a lot thinner.
Okay.
But it's exactly the same. But that's a graphite rod. Okay. That's the chatterbaits here. I got an SLX on there too, the DC.
Yeah.
And I was down there last night just listening to it in the dark. I fished till about 20 minutes after dark last night. Wow. I don't know why. It just got colder, but it's what it is. But so you can see the difference. And the whole thing, everybody always hears me ranting, going on about the bend in the rod, parabolic rods. And you see how thick this is because it's got glass in it too, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that they've done this up now, they're absolutely incredible. They're so nice looking. Even little things like that, having it laser etched, the SLX, and people look, I don't know, it just makes it look nice.
Absolutely.
Like the wrap looks so nice. So they're running the same price, depending if you have a swim bait model one or not, $139, $159. So you really can't beat it. It's for the price. There's 23 models of them. They've put carbon tape on the butt now. I never realized. I was talking to a couple of the guys that deal with the tech stuff, and I never realized how this part of the rod is so important to the whole rod.
Okay.
Keeping this part like intact, like so there's no twist or torque or anything on it. So they've added carbon tape to it now, which is really, really cool. And they've also changed the reel seat, and it's got locking nuts on it now, so it won't come loose.
Do you prefer cork over what you have there on the SLX, Jim? Or
I looked at, the other chatterbait.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like I'm indifferent that way.
Yeah,
it's a tool to me.
Yeah,
and I look at it that way. But they're both really nice. But the big thing, this here, you can see on the rod as I go up it. See right when you get to the first guide here, it changes right here.
Yeah.
Now this here is called Diaflash, and it's a wrap. You can see when I get it up close, focus on it, you can see it in there. Now, a lot of rods have a cosmetic finish like this because of the Zodiacs having the X-wraps. A lot of people it's just cosmetic. That's all it is. It's just to make it look nice. Mm-hmm. But this extends up this far. And what that does, when you're holding the rod, when you're fighting a fish, it prevents torque in the rod. Because depending, you have to, like the rod will twist whichever way the fish pulls in that, and that's why they straighten the butt too. The whole thing will actually start torquing. You don't realize it, but it's doing it. Yeah. And it helps you when you're casting. It helps you when you're fighting a fish, especially when you lean on them. But I'm really impressed with them. The only problem is I haven't got around to catching fish on them yet. I had a couple of people ask me it. I'm down there the other night, and I'm using it. I think, I pick up the other chatterbait, I throw it out, I catch one on the other rod. If I would have made one more cast, I would have probably caught it with one of these, you know what I mean? But the last three, like since I got these rods, the backyard, it's when it died. And I think the fish are scared. I think that, what? Do you think that's funny?
I'm laughing for everybody else.
Have you got that check? Did it clear yet?
Now, Jim, when it comes to the square bill as well as the chatterbait, same retrieval speed on both reels, or does it change?
I was never really big. These are both high-speed reels that I've got here. They're both XGs in that. I think that because they've got different, they've got 3 different speeds on them, eh?
Yes.
Or is it? Yeah, that's this DC is an 8-2 for the chatterbaits. Gotcha. So, but I'm really disciplined. Like a lot of people used to always tell you that when you fished a crankbait, uh, you had to use a reel that was like 4.6 to 1 or something, so you wouldn't reel it too fast. And I used to say, but then you lose a lot of your ability to kick up slack and stay in control.
Good point.
So why not just learn to reel slower? But it really is hard to do because I even find myself doing it. And, I mean, I used to do it 120 days a year.
Yeah.
So it was, you really had to pay attention to what you were doing. But I was always, you look at almost all my reels, they're all high speed. Because I'm still disciplined enough to turn the handle slower if need be.
Good to know. A couple questions here. Did they make a two-piece rod this year for the SLX?
Yeah, they do have some SLXs in two-piece, yeah.
Cool. And Steve made a mention about cork floating. I'm not sure if this has a direct relation to the rod that you lost off the back, but if I'm not mistaken, it had cork, that rod.
Yeah, rods. Yeah, there is something to that. I don't know which ones float. I have a buddy of mine actually, and when he buys rods, he takes them to his cottage, and he sees if they float. He just goes beside the dock, chucks it in with the reel on it. Just walks into the water he has a little beach beside his dock.
Not a bad idea.
And he knows which ones float and don't. I think he actually has a piece of colored tape on them.
Yeah.
So it's all good. Yeah, it's no fun when you're in a boat with somebody and they have a Stella and a V rod, and they go to cast and they throw it out of the boat, and you're standing there looking at them. I had that happen to me years ago with a big retailer, and they brought a bunch of the employees from the Toronto area up to Cooch for the day. Had a big barbecue and everything else, and it was an old store, LeBaron.
Yeah.
And they had about 20 employees there, and there was about 10 guys there with the boats, and we all took a couple of people, and I got a couple of the cashiers from Toronto, and there was an older lady, I forget her name now, I think it was Janice, if I'm not mistaken, but she was so funny, it was hilarious. Like I could have just sat down and listened to her.
Wow.
Like she just ranted all day, she told me all stories about customers, and
It's
just priceless. And anyway, she's up the front, and she got bid off. So I said to her, "Do you want to use another jerkbait, or do you want to try a tube on the bottom or something?" So I've never used a tube. I said, "Okay, let's use a tube." So I tie a tube on for her, and she's all excited. I've never used one. Oh, I've heard all about these. We sell thousands of them. I see them on the cash all the time. Goes, throws the whole thing in the lakes. He never opened the bales. He was so excited. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, that's like $1,300.
Ouch.
Was up. So, anyways, I managed to get it because she threw it in the weed bed, and we're right off the edge of the weed bed. Like the weeds were literally to the left, and open water 15 feet to the right, but it was crystal clear. You could see to the bottom, and
Nice.
I saw it sitting right on the edge of the weeds, and I went over with a crankbait rod, and I reached down and I poked it. I got the line and pulled it up. She says, "Good, because I don't make that much." I said, "You have nothing to worry about. You weren't going to be paying for it, though."
She's got a good sport. Steve's got a couple of great questions. It sounds like he might be in the market for one of these. He's asking if that new SLX has a frog rod species.
No, this is why I said you heard me say about picking the chatterbait rod. I just went by the same specifications as it had on the actual chatterbait rod from Loomis, and it worked out pretty good. I'm not 100% positive that there may not be a couple of rods in there that are specific. I've just got the stuff and been looking at it here. I'll let you know, Steve. I'll check as soon as I get off with you. I have it all in the back of the computer here, and in other files. But
and if you do find it, is there a technique specific for frog rods with the new SLX? Or I guess.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay.
I would just be looking for something that was similar in action to a specific frog rod, like a Loomis frog rod that you had used before. They tend to put the specific, technique type rods more in the higher end rods, because that's the guys that are a lot more serious. They're going to spend a lot more money. You get a guy that just has 5 kids and lives in an apartment and likes to go fishing. He can't be out buying 10 rods. He has to buy one, or 2 that'll get him by, and take it from there. And I fully understand that too, and obviously Shimano does too, and all the other companies do, because that's why they make other stuff too at other levels. Yeah.
Well, Jim, it's awesome that we've got some of our audience from Facebook back. We've got Scott, Jeff Richards with us, Joe Moore. It looks as if Facebook has released the video, and I apologize. Ed McKenzie's been messaging me. There's been a bunch of you that have been messaging me. Unfortunately, the minute it goes to Facebook, it gets deleted, or at least it goes into like a penalty box until they can determine that the opening, which we've used for how many years now, Jim? I don't know, 6 years.
Could that be somebody playing foul with you?
It who knows? Yeah, anything's possible. But Facebook basically has said no, we don't do anything. Well, of course you do, because the feed gets interrupted every Monday. But needless to say, we've got a bunch of folks with us. If you have any questions, yeah, Jeff's into frog rods. Absolutely love your frog rods. Corey's here. Yes, Ed McKenzie, finally. There you go, dude. What's upcoming with the weather, the way it's transitioning? Of course, some of our species and the target species are changing, whether their seasons close or just weather doesn't allow you to target them like you normally would. With that transition, do you start gearing up for hard water? Are you looking maybe to get ready for river fishing? What would you do, Jim? What would you be doing this time of year?
This time of the year, I'm usually catching up on everything from all the time I spent in the boat, so I don't have that this year. So I am going to get out with Captain Greg Emile there down in the Bay of Quinte, and we're going to do a YouTube video on walleyes.
Nice.
So that'll be a hoot, and I got a message into Mr. Thorpe there about doing a muskie one, and I'll have Luke with me, the limestone angler guy. He'll be coming down to filament. We got another trailer, and I have about 10 minutes work. He's got to film on the rods and reels to use, and we'll have 2 more from out the back here that we did in the Lund, the one with you.
Yep.
We'll use some pieces from you and me and the 3 of us out there, because there's certainly a lot of fish, but I like to include a lot of information, because watching fish gets stale pretty quick.
Yeah,
absolutely. To some people.
Well, this is it. And for some who live vicariously through the Limestone City Angler, or anyone else who is a CFNer, OFCer, and we see you posting great pics, great outings, great journeys, we live vicariously through you. So thank you for all you do. But yeah, that was a lot of fun with Luke. And of course, yes, Jim, you did catch a lot of fish, and I'm glad we got it well documented. Did he get all of the files that I sent him? Do you know?
I have them here. I'm going to send them to him. Okay. Somehow they didn't go when you sent them to him.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I don't know, but I have them here, and I'm going to forward them all to him when he's ready, so he can get them.
Now, something we were discussing before we went to air, and of course, I know it is a thorn in your side when folks talk about fall fishing and fish in general in the fall, and the fact that they got the feed bags on and they only eat in the fall. You've been over this, but you brought up something before we went to air that is really interesting. I never even thought about it, but it makes sense.
Yeah, everybody says, oh, they're fattening up for the fall. Well, they're not fattening up for the fall. They started fattening up 2 weeks after they finished spawning. That's why they go on a ravenous bite. That's why the opening weekend, in the end of June, you go out and your fish are stupid. You catch them on spinner baits, and I think plus they haven't been bugged for a while. But they're also starting to eat again, because they've had so much time that they haven't eaten a lot of whatever. Hey, Tony, check this. Can you hear that when I knock that, Tony? Listen for the echo. Okay?
Oh.
But it's, they fatten up for the fall, and then Jason said to me, and I've talked to Bruce Tufts about this, Dr. Bruce Tufts and things like that, and they eat all year. They're getting fatter. Like, you see guys at tournaments in the middle of July holding up a fish going, look at the cutout, man. I can't believe, they eat as much as they can all year. Yeah. In the summertime, when the water's really warm, they're cold-blooded. They digest their food in 8 hours at max. In the wintertime, it can be as long as 2 to 3 days for them to digest their food. So in the fall here, they're still eating at that tremendous rate, everything that they can get their hands on, which they started 3 months before. They're eating, but their metabolism does this because the water's down in the 50s now or something like that. And I really believe that when you see these guts in the fall on every fish is because the food isn't being digested as fast, but it's going in at the same rate. And I've had a couple of biology guys, and Jason just said to me too, it clicked in it. Like there's something to that. I've known it. I've watched it all my life. I've watched it all my life. And fish don't just eat in the fall. Fish don't go on September 4th. Oh, I better start eating now. You know, they've been eating since they finished spawning.
Well, I have to say, I did like Lawrence's explanation on what it is. He said, basically, Scotty, it's like what happens when you eat like you're going to the gym and then you're not going to the gym anymore. And that's when you stepped in and said, I sure as heck hope Lawrence is talking about you, Scotty. That pretty much ended the conversation.
Get my hands on him.
Yeah.
I got one of the big tufts off of narwhal here last weekend from the ones I got. And I'm going to give him a couple of knocks with it. So I don't know whether anybody saw the thing I posted about with the largemouth bass that was this big.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm holding it, and I said, I got a bad angle on it. It's really about 5 pounds. And I put about 10 of the figures with the Pinocchio nose after it, you know. I actually had guys message me and say, like, I didn't want to say anything, but I don't think that's 5 pounds. The chatterbait's the size of its head and everything else like that. And I said, so you think that that's not 5 pounds, but you thought that I caught a salmon out the back on a buzzbait?
Yeah.
You know, it was so funny. I had a guy tell me, he says, I didn't know there was salmon out there.
Well, with everything else that's going on, you know, and people are getting much better at identifying weights of fish and what fish look like and yada yada yada. So I'm not the least bit surprised. That's
like the first fish that I caught here was might not have been as big as the one I showed the other night. And I said, wow, I can't believe I got the first fish at the new house. Just under 8 pounds. Can't believe it. I think there was like 600 comments on it. It was one of the highest comment things I've ever had.
Yeah.
Not one person said boo about it not being 8 pounds. I was so happy for the new house, Jimmy. So, you know, like whatever, great job, whatever. It was just absolutely awesome. Whole bunch of laughing faces and stuff like, you know.
Oh, yeah. I forget who it is, Ed, that would post that from time to time. Reputable angler on social media. I can't think of his name, but he would always say when he caught a king, look at this, just caught this on Stokel.
Yeah, what's his name that used to work for Stacy at Pro Tackle?
Yes, I can't think of his name.
What's his name? Having a senior citizen moment. But he does that all the time.
Dave Pearl, that's right. Dave Pearl.
Dave Pearl,
Thank you, buddy.
Every time he posts that, I go, you were in Stokel, weren't you?
Yeah.
Everybody.
Question from Christina, and I don't know if you can show what you showed to me earlier, or at least a snippet of
what do you mean by working on baits? Do you mean like me making stuff?
What baits are you working on? Either you might be tying something. That might, I never even thought about that. K-Dog might be talking about that.
What I've been tying is I've got a guy that makes tubes for ice fishing, and he hangs a treble hook with feathers out the back. And I've been working on C&Es for him. Yeah.
So hopefully, Christina, that answered your question, but that's really cool.
Yeah,
what baits?
I've been making the odd jig too, not a while. I've been cleaning up. You know, you got 6 of these heads, 5 of those. I've been tying them. I got boxes of them.
Yeah.
Just for next year for ganyons, you know. So it's because any jig you put in ganyon sells, right? It's what it is. They buy them.
That's a good plug, and you're 100% right. You go through a lot of baits at Ganyons, 100%. Jim, anything else that you wanted to add before we move on to our narwhal specialist?
Can he hear you right now?
Oh yeah, he's waving his fist as we speak. Matt,
he's got a good story. He had a good weekend.
Yeah, he did. What's your smallest head that you use?
Oh, that I use personally?
Yeah.
16th would be the absolute smallest. Yeah, it's more to me than the weight. It's the size of the hook.
Gotcha.
I make some jigs. I usually make them for myself. I'm running low. I haven't poured jigs in several years, so I haven't poured jigs at the new house here. But I have piles of little ones with like teeny little number, you know, like probably down to about 6s, and even some 8s for when you're fishing for bluegills with, like that tiny little stuff, these little weedy things that Jamie makes.
Yes.
Like these, I don't even know where the really teeny ones are here, but there's something there. Like using these teeny little things here.
Yeah.
For all the arms and legs. That's the mayfly, and there's stuff that's even smaller than that. It's even smaller than that. This is my new drawer. Oh, I got. It's okay if I get bit off by a pike out the back now because I have a whole bunch of new ones.
Oh, good.
I have a whole bunch of new ones, so I got them. Yeah, but the only thing I have a fair size. In fact, I was telling the guys that make the Great Lakes sneaky spin. Hang on,
I think you're right. By the way, Steve, they are swan feathers that are on those trebles.
This little Dickens here.
Oh,
I have never seen a jig spinner that works that well, and it's because it's right at the very back and it slants back. It's underneath the bait.
Now this is from Great Lakes Tackle. Who makes this?
Great Lakes Finesse.
Finesse.
It's actually a lot of it's made right in Kingston. I was surprised, but I'm going to. I was talking to them the other night, and I told them, I said, man, you guys got to make one. That's a number 1/0 hook. I said, you got to make one with a 1 or a 2 or even maybe a touch smaller. Maybe even like a special series with like 1s and 4s or something.
Yeah.
For all these little crappie and panfish baits for the springtime, it'd just be killer.
Yeah.
Just be absolute killer. But like I say, there's so many things out there. You gotta.
Yeah.
You have to try new stuff. Like when I look at my rods here and I see the stuff that's on them, the stuff I've been using this year, they're all piled up here. There must be 25 of them. And I haven't even fished a lot. And it's all, half of them have got stuff I never used before June in my life. A lot of it's got stuff I never used until a couple of months ago.
Right.
So
wow.
It's cool.
Well, as always, Jim, you bring all kinds of stuff that we must have, must need, and wish we could afford. But needless to say, it's an endless supply, and we are thankful of that because, as I said, we cherish all of these minutes and hours that we've had with you over the years, and we'll hopefully continue to do so. So, buddy, on behalf of everybody from CFN, thanks for doing this.
I'm here, buddy. Have a good night, everybody. Be safe, eh? It's getting cold. You fall out of the boat now, you'll know all about it.
Amen. Amen. Take care, buddy.
Be good.
Hoping Jim and Tammy have a great week. I know they've got lots going on, but we will definitely be thinking of them along their journeys. Just I hope we can grab as much information from Jim as he's willing to give us. As you can see, he's excited every Monday to come on here and spend some time with our community. And thank you, Facebook, for allowing that to happen tonight. Before we bring up Lawrence, here is a look back at Flash Boost. If you missed it last week, of course, Bill Landry is our winner. And of course, this was the product we gave away. What's up, Lawrence? How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm living the dream, as they say, one day at a time, hoping I do not wake up.
No.
I can't wake up. Just in case.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So I have to get to, because I couldn't wait to ask, but you've had a very exciting week, as Jim has mentioned, on top of targeting so many narwhal in St. Lawrence.
I never didn't catch any narwhal, so that was a downside. I mean,
I'm kind of glad, because if you did, there would be a lot of incredible stories that we'd be listening to right about now. But better than that, you had a special guest this past week that fished with you.
Yeah. So last year, I reached out to Adrian Smith. He's the lead guitarist with Iron Maiden, and he had just written a book called "Rivers, Monsters of River and Rock." So it's his life. You know, he travels around the world with his band now for 40 years, Iron Maiden, touring, and he fishes at home. Like he has a club he belongs to in London, England, where he goes fishing all the time. And but he loves to take advantage of his travels with the band to go fishing. So anyways, we did this podcast together, and we keep in touch a little bit over the emails and stuff. Anyways, I'm away camping with the family on Thanksgiving. I get home, there's a message there from some weird phone number. I think it's a duck cleaner again. I guess cleaning my ducks. But I checked the message, and it's this British guy, and he says, "I'm Adrian Smith, and I want to go fishing with you if it's all right. He's going to be in town." So I call him back, and I said, "That sounds good, man." I said, I'm thinking to myself all the time, he does remember I'm blind, right? Like, like where does he, like, but here's this guy who's, from London, England, traveling all over the world, just puts his life in the hands of a blind man in a city he's probably never been to. And the guy he's only ever talked to, over the phone and, over the internet kind of thing. Actually, it was a phone interview. So because when I interviewed him, he was sitting on the bank of the Thames River in London fishing carp under a tent, and it was raining, and I could actually hear the raindrops falling on the roof of his tent just above his head as he's fishing there, like those Londoners do, right? Rain or fog, they're out fishing. So anyways, we chatted for a while. I never mentioned the blind thing. I never reminded him, didn't want to scare him off. And anyways, he said he's good. He doesn't have any equipment. He's never caught a muskie before. I said, we should go get a muskie. He said he never caught one before. He has no equipment, no gear, no weather gear, no rain gear. He did confirm with me later, though, that he does travel with a large case full of fishing tackle that the roadies carry around for him. So he doesn't bring it as his personal luggage. He has it shipped with all the equipment for the roadies for the performance, and then when he needs it, he just asks them to pull it off the truck for him, and he picks through it and puts together a gear he needs, because he likes to fish a lot. He doesn't like to use guides, right? He'd rather just fish. He said guide fishing is okay, but he'd rather just fish and meet people. And so anyways, I think, okay, get off the phone. I got a list of guides that have contacted me, muskie people and friends that have contacted me, that over the months, everything, they found out that Iron Maiden was coming to Ottawa, and they were listening to my podcast, and they're trying to infiltrate themselves into either going fishing with Adrian or going to the show. That's all good, right? It's all good. But I think, well, who's my go-to guy when it comes to catching muskie on the Ottawa? It's always been John Anderson from the Ottawa River Muskie Factory. Yep. I've known John for over 15 years, and we started fishing together 15 years ago, and it was the first time I caught a muskie on the Ottawa River, and was with him, and so he was in my documentary, What Lies Below. We've done TV stuff together. We've been on the radio together. We've taken radio personalities fishing from CBC, fishing from muskie on the Ottawa River. Because I'm always pulling stunts together and kind of bring attention to the amazing fishery with these 81 different species of fish that live in this river that flows through the fourth largest city in Canada, Canada's capital, where you can go out and fish for 80 different species of fish in the city, right? In the city. Everything, no narwhals, but from gar to pike to muskie to bass to walleye to every name of catfish, bass, smallmouth, largemouth, white bass, it's all there. Wow. And so we even, I did a 24-hour fishathon, and John came out and did the muskie piece with me. I had a different guest come on every 4 hours, and we pursued a different species every 4 hours for 24 hours, and lots of media joining us on the boat for that as well. Anyways, John, I mentioned Adrian Smith, and I didn't have to explain who he was. John said, I'm in. I said, we're going to my boat. And he said, that's good. Fine. So we worked out the details over the weeks in terms of bait and tackle and process and so on. And I text Adrian every so often, give him a little update. Got your flotation suit. It'll keep you warm, and it'll help us find your body just in case you fall overboard. And gives you back a thumbs up.
When did you throw in the I'm blind, by the way?
Never did.
You never did. So
No,
I have to say, at the outset of your story, I'm thinking Adrian has done some crazier things than going out fishing with a blind man. Just saying. Listening to some of the tours that Iron Maiden has been on and some of the shenanigans that they've been involved with, going out fishing with a blind man is probably about here on the totem
like
pole.
just below going to church.
That's right, exactly.
So we said we're going to pick him up in front of the Chateau Laurier Hotel at noon. So my wife and I hook up the boat. We drive down. We just live 5 minutes away from the Chateau Laurier. It's right down beside Parliament buildings, right downtown Ottawa, right beside the canal. You look at the front of the Chateau Laurier, you're looking at the Rideau Canal. You look at the back window, you're looking at the Ottawa River. And he says to me, "Where are we going?" I said, "Well, just look out your back window." There. He goes, "Really? What is that?" And I said, "That's the Ottawa River, man." I said, "There's wild muskie living in there." And he was pretty excited.
And he's never caught a muskie, I would imagine.
Never caught a muskie.
Never caught a muskie.
And these are wild muskie. There's no stock muskie in the Ottawa River. They're all wild.
Right.
You can have tiger muskie, the hybrid pike muskie hybrid tiger, which never, like a mule, they can never breed again once they're a hybrid. That's the end of that, right? So, and they're spotted, and there's, a bunch of variations, but they're all musky. And so I said, "Okay, we're 2 minutes away." And I said, "Look for the white truck and the boat in front of your hotel." So we pull up. My wife looks over. There's a guy sitting there just on the stone wall, in front of the hotel with a little bag. So she gets out and goes over to him. And I forgot to mention my wife was picking him up. and she introduces herself. And he comes over and he shook my head. Like, no, he knew I was blind. He shook my head. He'd never, if he didn't know I was blind, he's pretty, he just rolls with it. That's for sure. But I'm pretty sure he did, because we might have talked about it in the podcast. I can't remember. And, or after or before or something. So we get him in the truck and head off to John's. And we bring him to John's house. Now, John has this muskie house down by the river. He bought it years ago, right by the launch. And it's just an old, crappy house. But you walk inside and all the walls are covered in muskie baits and fishing rods and all Shimano stuff, beautiful stuff. I'm not going to give you his address, but my God. Yeah. Like lures from ceiling to floor, all muskie baits. And then an old taxidermied muskie to show people that have never seen one before. So Adrian walks in and goes, "Oh, this is it." He loved it. And what's not to love? If you love fishing, you walk into the house, man. That's like you're walking into a tackle box. You're inside the tackle box.
It's funny. Lisa had mentioned that. Lisa Goodyear had said that there's more tackle on his wall than in his boat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's all there. And to meet John and in his house like that. So I would come throw the rods in the boat, and we all get in the boat, the three guys, and Ann backs us in. Boat floats away, and we wave goodbye to my wife, and off we go. Right. And we cast. We went to a spot and we cast for a while. But Adrian, he's not the biggest fella. Like he told me he's 5'10", but my wife thinks he's more like 5'5", 5'6". And
well, that's a big difference.
No, but I asked him, "How tall are you? I'll get you a flotation suit." I borrowed a flotation suit off a guy that's 5'10", because that's what he told me. My wife said he looked like he was floating in it. but good to go. And he said, "Look," he said, I said, "I just got to be careful with my arms. I need to play tomorrow. I can't strain my arms, and these rods and baits and everything I'm told can be pretty big and pretty heavy. And for sure, if you're pulling a double 10 inline spinner, that can really pull your arms if you're not using the right rod. If you're like, I use those Tranx 400 with the power handle and the HD, so not the extra fast one, but you can pull a double 10 pretty easily with something like that. But if you go to a traditional double paddle handle on a reel, you're going to struggle. You're going to hurt yourself.
I can't imagine like a full day of casting those lures.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're tired. You're tired the next day,
and your shoulders are on fire. You could boil an egg on either one of them. They'd be on fire at that point. Wow.
And then you got to go play a 2-hour show. And they play fast and hard. But so we cast for a while, and John noticed he's flagging a bit, and he said, "You okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm getting a little tired." And I told him we'd be mostly trolling. So off we go, put some rods out, get trolling. Not 20 minutes later, fish. One of the rods goes off. And he's never pulled, it's those Downeaster rod holders. They're not obvious on how to get the rod out, right? So John just pops the rod out and hands it to him. He sets the hook and reels it in, and it's coming around, and he gets it. It comes on one side, and it's coming to the other side, and get it into the big Kona net. And then John looks at me, and goes, "Get your cutters." I said, "Why?" He goes, "I got a hook in my leg." I said, "Okay." Well, we got the fish in the net, so I got my big cutters out, and he just snips the hook off. And then we take the fish, we unhook the fish in the net with the hook outs. These hook outs are really good. They're like 16-inch long, and it's just a little handle at one end, like a pistol grip. And it just grabs the hook and hangs onto the bend of the hook, and then you just push it out. And you don't get your hands near the bait or the mouth of the fish, but mainly near the bait stuck in the mouth of the fish, and get your hand caught in there with the thrashing. I would recommend everyone get one of these hook outs. They're such a great tool, and you can keep the head of the fish in the water when you're doing all this. John says he's never cutting hooks anymore in the fish's mouth. Just his leg now. Just his leg. Just not the fish's leg.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So we get the hook out. We get the, I put out my measuring board on the back deck. I pour a couple big tubs of water on it to make everything wet for the fish. Put the fish on there, 47 3/4 inches.
His first muskie.
Yeah, 47 3/4.
Wow.
So we got a picture of that. Got a picture of me and Adrian. And I said, "John, I'll take your picture." He hands me his camera, and I can't get it to flash. And he goes, "Never mind." We put the fish back. So off it swims. Then John drops his pants, looks at the hook. And I said, "Look, Ben," I said, "I'll let's get a nice pack on there. Maybe we can push it through." And he goes, "No, I'll take care of it when I get home." And Adrian's like, "Oh, we can just go home now. Like, I'm okay. If you need to go to the hospital." And John says, "No, we're going to catch another fish, Adrian. We're going to go catch another fish. We're not done. We're not done, man. We're going to go catch another fish."
Well, at this point, the pants are off. Like, it's all business, right? Pants are off.
Pants are down around his knees, anyways.
Yeah.
So
he's hot to trot. So yes, we're out catching more muskie. Absolutely.
He's got this hook cut off hook sticking out of his leg. The barb's right in there. The point's all the way in. The barb's all the way in. He just pulls up his pants and we get back at it. So we troll around for another hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, stop, try, cast a bit, and it, boom, goes off again right beside Adrian. This time John just steps back, and Adrian grabs the rod, pulls it out, sets the hook, and he's got it on this really cool Muskie Factory. It's a sort of a combination between an inline spinner and a spinner bait. Most beautiful musky spinner bait I've ever seen in my life, man. Absolutely gorgeous. So the Golden Knight, mostly black with a bit of gold in it, and all the fuzz there, but it's just gorgeous spinner bait. But anyways, reels that one in, gets it in the net, and again, this time I get a picture of John and him holding it. And John, I said, "Give me the camera." So I go down. I said, "How's that?" He goes, "Oh, little down." I managed to get a couple pictures off before I lose the spot on the glass. And I hand him the camera. I said, "Take a look." And he goes, "Never mind." And he just puts the phone in his pocket. We get the fish back in the water. It swims away. John looks. He goes, "Oh my God, Lawrence, you got a perfect picture of me and Adrian holding the fish."
You did. Awesome.
Yeah, perfect picture. John freaked out.
You know what? You hand, no offense, I'm so glad you got a great sense of humor. But you hand a blind man a camera and say, "Here, can you take a shot of this?"
I've done it so many times. And I just say, "Look, up, down," and then I just move it around a little bit just to make sure, the film's cheap. And I just move it around a bit and keep taking pictures. And then one's going to turn out good. And I got it in two pictures. I got it two. It turned out a perfect one. So that was fish number 2. So we fished a little bit more, and then it got dark, and then we just went back, and John pulled the boat in, and John pulls the boat up to the dock. The dock's not even there. It's just a cement tangle of cement and metal bars. So he pulls up to a couple bars. We get Adrian on the bow, and I'm at the back, and we're each holding onto a bar. John jumps out and onto the cement slab there, and gets my truck, backs it in, and then John gets in, and then Adrian and I get out, and we push John off. And I said, "Come on, Adrian." I said, "You're going to drive. I'm going to winch the boat on." He goes, "Okay." And I said, "No, other side, left side, Adrian, left side." Because what do I do? He goes, "Where's the gear shift?" And I said, "It's the thing on the thing on the column." So
Now, has he ever done this with a boat? Has Adrian ever pulled a boat?
No, he doesn't own a boat. He's
Oh.
he's hardly ever fished from a boat. He's a shore fisherman. He's from London, right? They don't have boats. They don't need boats. They just have ponds and lakes. They fish from shore. And so he's in the truck.
I just want to. John hasn't given up guiding after this, has he?
No,
Okay.
no, he's in cloud nine. John's on cloud nine.
I'm just kidding.
I know. So I get Adrian. He's in the truck. I go back and John gets the boat up. I winch it on, go drive him around the passenger side. I said, okay, pull ahead, man. So he pulls ahead, pulls John out, and John jumps out. We tidy up, and then we drive to Ottawa and meet up with my wife at John's family home there, and share our good news. And then John gives, and then Ann jumps in, and we drive Adrian back to the hotel. We had him back at the hotel by 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Wow.
And so the next day, I spent the whole day up in Quebec searching lakes with a couple board members of Bluefish Canada. We're setting up some research centers there. So we're working with the municipality at the Pontiac region, and they've identified 6 possible lakes where we wouldn't have exclusive access to these lakes, but we would have some crown land on these lakes to do research, support research happening, and youth fishing adventures and family fishing adventures. Cool. So we were checking those lakes out. So that was a full day. And Ann said, you better not come back, because we had some tickets now, right? We had 6 tickets. John got a couple, and we had 6 ourselves for the show that night, Saturday night. And we didn't know what to expect. So we get down to the Canadian Tire Center. Friggin', it's a zoo. And we come in, and we get our tickets. And I say, okay, we're special guests. Well, you got to go first. And there's a whole set of instructions. It's like a breakout room. Which elevator to take and where to turn, which glass, which secret hallway to go down to get to the the hospitality suite. So we got to the hospitality suite, but we were a little bit late, but we left a little too early because we missed Adrian, and his wife came later to the hospitality suite. So we didn't see Adrian that night. But and then the next step was to get to the box. So we had a box. I thought we'd be sitting on the floor, right? Maybe, but no, we got a nice box, and there was a bar and a waitress and whatever you want. It was there. And so John came a little later, and Adrian's wife came, and this really, she said, look, she took me aside, and she said, I just want you to know that Adrian couldn't stop talking about what you guys do here, like what Bluefish Canada is doing, about the research, the work you're doing with Bluefish Canada, and he woke up this morning and he wrote a song.
No way.
Yeah, he wrote a song.
Wow.
And she said it's going to be on his next album. It's coming out in 2024. He has his own label. He does blues music.
Wow.
And he has a home in Malibu, California, where his recording studio is. And so she said he just absolutely
awesome.
I know, eh?
Holy. Wow. So now I'm waiting for the punchline at this stage. I'm sure there's a bunch of you that are watching as well. Did tendonitis set in with John? Like, did he have to go get a tetanus shot? Did he?
No, I asked him that night. I right away. First thing I asked him, I said, "How did you get the hook out?" Because he said, "There's no way I'm going to the hospital. I'm spending a day there." And he said, "Yeah." He said, I drank some scotch, got drunk, tried it, didn't work, so I had to get drunk again." So he said he got drunk twice that night, Friday night, and then just pulled it out. He didn't push it through. He just pulled it out. The story
is completely off the rails at this point.
Pulled it out.
Yeah. Do not try this at home.
Holy shit! Can you imagine pulling it out? Just grab the
service announcement. Do not try this at home.
Oh,
Make sure you go up to Horwood and you're surrounded by a whole bunch of sober friends that will help you out. And that video is coming to a CFN post near you. That's really cool. What a cool story, Lawrence.
Yeah. So and I tell you, to see these guys now, they're 3 guitarists, a bass, a drummer, a singer on stage. They're all 65 plus. This band started in 1975. These guys sound as good as they ever did, probably be better because they have better technology now, right? Like the technology they're using, the equipment, the speakers, and what a show on stage. My wife's there's a 25-foot, Eddie, the mascot, wandering around in different forms of airplanes flying overhead, rockets, fire launchers, fire bazookas, every song had its own set of sort of special effects that were just over the top. And the sound was amazing. Like these guys they're all super fit.
Well,
Super fit.
weren't they one of the loudest bands back in the day? Like I don't know if they were the loudest because there was one that was always just like off the charts crazy. But Iron Maiden was up there, and they always had a great show.
They're carrying on the tradition. The stadium was packed. There wasn't an empty seat in the place. People were just freaking out. This show, they could just go to Vegas and play it for a year at Vegas, right? I mean, that's the quality of the show. The music, the quality of the music, and the entertainment value of what they're doing on stage. It's absolutely over the top.
It really is cool.
Yeah.
So if you are looking to go by and look at the link, this is the link shared by Steve. Thanks for this. This, I believe, is the podcast from Bluefish Radio.
Thanks, Steve.
I also wanted to mention that if you ever wanted to bring Adrian a little bit further west and do some one of our Western CFN guides, Sparkus Fisher, has offered up his boat to take you and him out as well.
Oh, that's really nice, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, by the sounds of it, I think anybody and everybody would be signing up for tickets, or at least to be just be part of the audience on the boat. Sounds like a lot of laughs were had.
We had a lot of laughs. But what I want to leave this with is the reason what attracted me to Adrian in the first place is his book, is his commitment to fish and fishing and fish. And he really, really cares about the fish. He's like, these are guys rockers, right? They've been rockers all their life. But he also has been around the world, and he sees what's happening all around the world with the fish. That's what he does. He looks everywhere at the fish and at the water, right? And not just the fly-in 5-star luxury resorts. He's done all that. He said, I don't need to do that. He said, I want to fish with, just go down to under the bridge and fish with everybody and get, just fish and what it's really like. So he's really blown away what we have here in Canada for sure. And John and I both said we might be the best, having the best fishing in the world. In terms of the opportunity and the quality, we might be the
number of species.
What
did you say? How many species?
Just the Ottawa River has 81.
There you go.
Yeah, 81 species. But just what Canada has to offer compared to the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
Like he says, we have something. Adrian says we have something special here. We really we have been doing a great job. Take care of it. He's fished across Canada. You don't tour for 40 years and not come to Canada maybe once before, right? Besides his wife's from Montreal.
Oh wow.
And what a wonderful lady. So we did have a lot of conversations about conservation, about his stories of fish habitat loss and misadventures and fishing being destroyed in different parts of the world, just overexploited, abused, and how lucky we have it, how fortunate we are. And I think that's the story really, is just how freaking fortunate we have it here in Canada. Yeah.
On that note, we will save your new snippets for next week. But I'd like you to stick around if you don't mind, Lawrence, because there was an interesting topic that you and Jay were talking about.
Jason's doing some cool stuff, man.
Really cool stuff. So I'm hoping everybody will stick around and listen to Jay's segment. Lawrence will be joining myself as well. But it's really, really cool. So before we get to that, I have one last question for you. The book that Adrian has put out, what's the name of his book again?
Monsters of River and Rock.
There you go. All right.
You can get it on Amazon. It's $35.
Very cool. All right. Before we bring on Jay, let's have a word from his sponsor.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have. Thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural. Man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
Jay Dog in the house. How we doing, Jay?
Hey, what's happening, everybody?
Well, first of all, I must say on behalf of all of us, thank you for all the work you did today. Wasn't exactly his job. Tell us a little bit about what you are embarking on.
Well,
worst week you could be doing it.
Yeah, like my timing couldn't be better. So it's probably one of the most boring projects I've ever done in recent years, but probably one of the most interesting too. So what I'm doing is I'm actually mapping a river, the Grand River in southern Ontario, where we're using side scan sonar to map it. Now, this isn't new technology. We were talking about this pre-show. The use of side scan technology is actually pretty. Actually, I'm going to share an article with you guys in a second that I found. Let's see if this is going to work.
I think what's cool about it is something that you talked about when it comes to side imaging. Once it disappears from the screen, that got lost forever.
So that's right. So I like this picture here that I'm sharing. I apologize to Lawrence, but this picture here shows a typical side scan image that you might get from your side scan unit. Now, the thing about it is that when your side scan unit is scrolling along, that data is just dumped off the side, right? So it collects it for a period of time for us as anglers to observe the side scan data or down scan data or 2D sonar. It's all there temporarily. And then what's happened is in recent years, going back, goes back to about 10 years now where this has been kind of in the works. There's software out there now that you can now record those images, and it helps us too. You can go on YouTube and type in how to record Humminbird sonar data, how to record Garmin sonar data or Lowrance sonar data. And there's really cool ways if you want to go out when you're fishing and record side scan or down scan imagery, you can play it back at home on your laptop. It's really cool to see. But the thing about some of this is what we're doing is we're actually showing how to figure out like substrate types. So that image I just showed, Scotty, was from a 2017 study where they actually mapped a river to find optimal walleye spawning substrate.
Wow.
So
that was done in the States, wasn't it? Done down in Minnesota, I believe.
It was done down in Minnesota. It was at a Red Lake in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And I'll send you a link because I'm not on Facebook right now because of Facebook's being funny tonight. So I didn't want to give Facebook any more leverage on this broadcast. But what they did though was they mapped a section of river. Now the trick to this is that it doesn't tell you what the image is. There's still an interpretation of this, and what colleagues of mine are doing both at the provincial and federal level is they're taking this into a geographic information system, so GIS, and then they're overlaying it over the river itself. So you're taking a layer of side scan image and a layer of mapping, and you're putting the two together. What happens is the with the side scan data, now I can look and I can see I can see polygons of very similar substrate. Like that looks like rock, that looks like gravel, that looks like sand. And then what will happen is you should always go back and ground truth. So you'll go out, let's say you got 20 kilometers of river. You might, after you map it all, you might have to go back with some sort of sampler to go back and ground truth. Yep, that's boulder, that's cobble, that's sand, that's gravel. And then once you do all that, then you could actually sit there and say, okay, what fish are using these areas? So Scotty, if you know the preferred velocity of flowing water and the preferred substrate type for walleye, we can now figure that out on like a macro scale, like at a landscape scale, instead of doing it on a small scale.
Interesting.
And on the cheap, right?
Well,
So that would really help find the fish during spawning season when you have this very narrow window to find fish on the spawning beds. Right now, you know exactly where to look.
Yeah, like we all know, we've all seen this has been used in the U.S. quite a bit for managing panfish. So in panfish, they make those little honeycomb colonies. We've seen them, right? Well, pardon my French, but those things stick out like dog balls on a side scan. Okay, like I'm just going to put that out there. If you drive along a shallow stretch of shoreline, and all of a sudden you'll see what looks like about 30 perfect circles in a honeycomb pattern. You're like, you don't know what species it is, but that's a Lepomis. So it could be bluegill, pumpkin seed, green sunfish. That's a Lepomis spawning colony. And they've used those to figure out. Like we could drive the perimeter of a small lake and I could scan it all and I could count the number of bluegill beds that day. I can do that like in seconds. I could count bluegill beds.
Wow.
So, and this is all done. Now realize that this technology, and Lawrence, we've talked about this before, but like some of this, like the technology you're seeing in so the unit we're using right today is a Helix 7, which I say is probably the most popular side scan image. I have no ties to Humminbird, but like Trevor uses it on his kayak. Like it is probably the most popular unit. It offers a great amount of features for a reasonable price. And it's got a decent sized screen, so you're not squinting too much, right? It's a great unit.
Yeah.
That technology in that unit 25 years ago was tens of thousands of dollars. Like literally, we used to use side scan units at work. I say we, the collective we, not myself, but like the hydrographic service goes out with, and we use DFO uses high level side scan. That's how they found some of these shipwrecks in the Arctic, which I'm sure we've all heard about, right? But the quality of the images on those things is like, it's like, I don't know, UHD, like, I don't know, what's the highest level TV you can get now? Like it is better than that.
8K.
It's incredible, the images now, but eventually that technology from the commercial side will come into the recreational side. That's what's been going on in fishing for decades.
And faster and faster, eh, Jason?
Oh, it's incredible.
And then I asked you, like, I interview this guy and his boss from, he's a fish biologist like you, and 10 years ago, like you said, him and a couple other guys invented this technology called BioBase. And I said, are you using BioBase? Because what he's done, he sold BioBase to Lowrance, and he said, look, put it on your Lowrance, and then we biologists can learn about the weeds that are the weed habitat, right? All that habitat underwater. And that's what this BioBase scans. And then Lowrance was bought by Navico, and Navico has been bought by Brunswick Marine. And I interviewed the inventor of this technology and the vice president of sustainability. And they said, no, we're giving Lowrance fish finders at cost or lower to researchers so that they go out there and scan for weed beds, fish habitat. And so, Jason, talk to us about the difference between these and why that's so interesting.
Right. So there's all these different software packages that post-process this information, right? Because it is just collecting a file. So Lowrance, so this gentleman that you're talking about, I forget his name, and I
Ray something. Yeah.
So I listened to a podcast a few months ago with him on it. And it wasn't your podcast, Lawrence. I still listen to your podcast. I have so much windshield time with my job. Most of my staff hate the fact that I just listen to podcasts. It's always fish or fishing related. Anyways, so this gentleman was sitting there in a cubicle world, working as a fish biologist, but had a dream of understanding aquatic macrophytes, or what we call weeds. Okay. And if he could figure out a way to measure the amount of weeds, the density of the weeds, the species of the weeds, figure out what species they are using remote sensing. That's the catch term, remote sensing. In this case, we're going to call it side scan. So he's sitting there in his office one day, and I believe the story goes where the guy from Navico walks in, literally, and is like, hey, you're so-and-so that wants to do this. Well, we want to do that too. You want to come work for us? So there's this guy who's working in the government cubicle land. And this guy from Navico basically walks in and says, you want a dream job? Here you go. Let's go work in the private sector. And you're going to develop this new software. Now, listen, this guy is a biologist, but he is a numbers guy. If you listen to some of his lectures he's given, he's basically an engineer. I'm not going to call him a biologist. He's an engineer. That's how his mind works. So he's able to take this technology and create this product. So what happens now is through this, now what's it called again, Lawrence? BioBase.
BioBase. I'm just looking for the guy's name here.
So with BioBase, if I'm a researcher and I want to use BioBase, I can collect side scan data. I can send it basically for free or very little cost, especially if you're a grad student. It goes into BioBase at the back end. They process it for you and spit it out. And they're telling you all kinds of cool information about, like weed density. We think, what does weed density have to do with anything? Well, weed density could be a couple different things. Dense weed growth provides great cover for young of the year fish, for larval survival, for young of the year survival. It can also provide great areas for predators to ambush. So like pike, bowfin, bass that want to are ambush predators, they can hide in those dense weeds. And then if we can get into different types of weeds or species, we can look at, well, invasive versus native species. We can look at quite often. One thing out there too is that often, and a lot of anglers don't even realize this, when you see weed transitions from one species to another, so for example, water celery or tape grass to coontail, that usually means that you've gone from a sand bottom to a mud bottom, literally. You can look at bottom transitions based on weed type. Now that's a visual thing, but with side scan, now you automate it. You go from what I would do at a point where I sample a point of area, like let's say a meter by meter plot. Now I can drive and scan hundreds of, like I could go literally kilometers in a day. So, and then, but the big work though, Scotty, on the backside is the GIS, is the post-processing. And this is what I talk about with my job. Like I know I get to go out and see fish, but I'm just one tool in the toolbox. Without these guys in the background doing the stats, doing the GIS work, my job is basically, it's not important, to be honest. Like you need your whole team. And the GIS folks.
Well, this is what Ray Valley is the guy that did the biobase. And this is exactly what he was saying, Jason, is that us anglers, we could go out there, never mind giving away our fishing spots, never mind giving away where we caught the big one or where we caught a bunch of fish that we just won us a tournament. Not that kind of private data. That's something you only give away if something's seriously going wrong with that water body and a group of researchers come and try to figure it out. Then
Iron Maiden calls and wants to go fishing.
Then you sell it for a backstage pass.
Sorry,
but this is really, we can collect this data about the bottom, about the weeds, and we can pass that on to these scientists just with a check in a box. Now when we when we upload and connect our systems to the network back home, we can pass all this on and they can do their research. This is so cool. This is exactly
so cool. Lawrence. So we're getting with I want to say Navionics now, and it has been for a while. Like I can put waypoints in my Navionics app and I can choose to have those public or private, right? And then that's advanced to on the Garmin platform, which I'm using because I have a Garmin unit. Again, no ties. But with Garmin, and a lot of the companies have this now, you can make your own maps, right? So now I can make my own maps, the bathymetry maps, and then those are then shared to, if I want to, I can share those with the whole community. This is the next evolution. Lawrence is exactly right. We're getting
and not just maps showing the fish where your hooks.
Show the fish.
No, hooks missing.
We're going to show the weeds. We're going to show it all, right?
Three-dimensional maps, man. This is exactly what the researchers need. They look, Stephen Cook, or I shouldn't mention names.
Yeah,
he says a big problem with fish biologists is that they spend so much time doing studying, right? That a lot of them have never really learned how to fish. So when it comes to going out and sampling and collecting samples and doing all that, or knowing where to look to get those samples, they're lost, right? So we got to help them. What do we do as anglers? We spend all our time fishing. We don't, we're not plowing through textbooks and writing big long theses on fish. That's what these guys do, but they need our help and we need their help. And I think if we join forces a bit, we can really support some really cool research that to know in real time before things go backwards or before things go south and really get screwed up. We can capture that and identify those problem areas before things go bad. And we see those changes happen over time, right? You get that baseline data, and then next year they compare last year's with this year's and the next year's and so on. And they see things change or stay the same, get better, get worse. This is so valuable, and we're all going to be part of this documentation and baseline, and research gathering. And then there'll be artificial intelligence that'll just monitor for problems. It'll do it automatic. I'm so excited.
I think what's really cool about this is it's a new level of citizen science that allows anglers to get involved. Because one challenge that I find with citizen science in general is that there's some great citizen science programs out there, but not a lot of the aquatics realm. I find that, and that's where my interest has always been since I was a little kid. And I find that something like this. Like this is literally how easy. I'll give you a good example. So when I was backstage listening to Lawrence talk, I literally opened up. This is my SD card case from today. Okay. I have a MacBook. So I had the case on this side. I got a MacBook on this side. I literally took the SD card from the Humminbird unit that I had out today, put it in the MacBook, uploaded the files to Google Drive, and I shared those files with my colleagues at the province while I was backstage.
Cool.
That took me 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And they have
2
they
minutes.
have
Two
kilometers
minutes
of
worth.
data that they can analyze now.
Yeah.
And
2
now
minutes.
are they cutting and pasting that information, Jay, to a map? Like, are they doing?
Yeah.
Are they building? Wow.
Yeah, they've already mapped a lot of the river from. I don't want to give it away, but I want to say a lot of the lower river, like I think it's from Dunnville to Caledonia, they pretty much mapped it with this technology. But now there's some tricks to this, Scotty and Lawrence. There's some nuances with this that makes it, you got to get your good images. I actually run the side scan sonar off the bow of the boat.
Interesting.
So last week I took a Scotty downrigger mount, the little block, like it looks like a little builder's block.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then I took the Scotty transducer arm with the little colored knob with the wing nut.
Mm-hmm.
I put that on the bow of the boat. This morning, I literally drilled 2 holes into a little John boat at work. It's like a little 12.5-foot John. Because by the way, all the ramps are closed. The only way to get a John boat to the river is to carry it.
Drag it
down.
down
Us carrying it.
Wow.
So I took that Scotty mounted it to the front of the boat, and then it's like a kickstand. So when we're traveling to our site, we got it up and then we put it down. Why is it at the back? A lot of anglers don't realize this. You get major cavitation in your images from your outboard motor. I know we're supposed to put transducers at the back of the boat, and you'll see videos about how anglers will try and put that transducer as low as possible because you want to get it out of the way of the air bubbles and the cavitation and the vibration. And you'll get way more vibration out of an aluminum boat than a fiberglass boat too. So all these little things can really upset your images. Even I can't rock the boat. So when we're sitting in this little John boat, like I have to be locked in for that transect as we're driving it. Like you can't move it. It'll make little shadows on it. It's really crazy. Once you start, I stared at it for 7 hours today, Scotty. So I get to see it all. So
You're doing this all week?
yeah. Yeah.
See, listen, everybody thinks that being a fish biologist is a glorious and glamorous job. Who wants to be out on a river in this week's weather here in Ontario, Southern Ontario for that matter?
I'm looking at, so I actually made a pit stop on the way. This is why I was running late. We doubled back to work today after we already worked a day to go double up on some warm clothes. I said, because we're sitting in the boat, we're not moving. I'm used to I'm usually hauling a net or doing something. I'm sitting because I am working. I'm collecting data, but it's hailing and raining on us, and we're just sitting there. We're not generating a lot of heat.
Wow.
So
and you can't fish. I know a friend of mine. He's a water tester guy for the city of Ottawa, and he has a boat. He has a truck and a boat that the city give him, and he puts it on all these bodies of water, and he goes out and collects water samples. And he said, look, if I took a fishing rod and put that rod in the water, even on my coffee break, someone would take a picture of this government official slacking off on the job, burning taxpayers' money to go fishing, right? And they'd report him and he'd lose his job. So forget about fishing, even if on your lunch break, you can't do it, right?
I never do. And it shocks people that I've never fished on the hour. I will go pick a rod up at the end of the day out of the back of the truck if I'm usually in a remote area, especially, but I won't fish when I'm working. Like that's just.
Yeah, someone's going to take a picture,
and it kind of takes away. I like the separation, guys. I like that. I like work and personal life. I love boundaries. I really, really, really do. It's important to have those.
So interesting that you mentioned, Lawrence, about most fish biologists not necessarily being seasoned anglers. They may perhaps like the fish, but they just haven't spent a lot of time on the water.
Yeah, it shows in the reports too. Like I read a lot of the reports coming from the BA students, the undergraduate students, their 3rd, 4th year, and they want to go on to a master's degree. And they're writing up their first or maybe big thesis of their career, and it's about fish and some sort of fishing related, topic. And you think, oh man, that makes no sense. Like no one fishes like that. or you got that
Yeah.
backwards, or and then it takes away from the credibility of the report. Like if you can't get the fishing stuff right in the report, how can we believe the rest of it? So
But-
like for Dr. Cook, he said it's so important that all his biologists learn how to fish.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you haven't learned how to fish by the time you graduate, you're not going to graduate, kind of thing. He doesn't say that, but he really stresses on them. Take the time, learn to fish. Your reports are just going to be way more believable.
Well, so what I'll add to that recently, this is just kind of good timing from you guys talking about this. So within Fisheries and Oceans Canada, some of the groups, especially during the pandemic, started doing these, they call them like town hall huddles. So like big calls with like 300-400 people on the call, and they'll bring in special guests. These aren't long calls. It's like 30-minute calls. And, it helps people with mental health and things like that. I fully thank them for offering these things for people. I got invited to do one as an angler, as a fishing biologist. So one of their media folks follows me on social media, follows Adventures with Trevor and I, the stuff with CFN we're doing, the stuff I do on my own, like trade shows, whatever. And for years he's been following me, and he said, we need you to talk to our collective group. And there's a bunch of anglers in that group. Like I have friends that work at my office, and we fish together quite regularly. Anyways, it was cool to talk, and they wanted me to talk about how do I get time to go fishing? That was the discussion. Like, how does this guy fish 100 days a year plus do field work for 150 days a year? And I'm like, but you have to make the time. You can't, I give up other things to fish. Like, I don't have free time. Who has free time? Nobody.
I think it's none of their
What's the name of your wife? What's the name of your wife? Quick.
I'll tell you right now. Heather was on that call.
Heather, very good. Only took me 4 seconds.
Heather was actually on that call because I had slideshows of, and that's the thing too, is that like a lot of support from family. Like Heather allows me to explore that passion, and it's, well, I've created a small monster, literally, but. But there's way worse things in this world than arguing with your son about what time he's going to be home, right? So
wives don't kick their husbands out of the house for fishing too much. They kick them out for drinking and whoring,
that's right. You're right.
Good point. So, absolutely. Now, as important as all that is, and again, we can't emphasize enough that we're thankful for our family for allowing us to do what we do every Monday and all the other days of the week as well. But I have to ask about that information. So we're gonna be mapping the information with the intent of looking for possible spawning areas, holding areas, nursery areas, as you mentioned, really, really important. With this mapping, is there any way that we can also include water flow? Now, I know that's going to change with inclement weather that comes and goes, but I'm asking this because that in a river system is also very important.
Yeah. So with the side scan, there's other projects happening. And this is what's been going on, Scotty, with some rivers in Southern Ontario, where the different agencies are doing different parts of the project. So for example, the one, I forget what agency was doing this. They had a Doppler profiler. So a Doppler profiler does channel cross sections, Scotty. So it'll do hardness and it does velocity down to the cubic centimeter. So picture you have a 30 meter wide channel that's 4 meters deep. Okay. Every cubic centimeter on that pixeled wall has a discrete velocity and hardness value in that pixel. So, and then then you take that layer. So this GIS, for people that don't know, Geographic Information System, this has been around for a long time. It's basically, and we use GIS all the time. Google Maps is like a poor man's GIS. That's how it was built. But if you want to go to look at parcels of land to see what your taxes are, you want to go look at areas to go, parks in your city, for example, where can I take the kids? That's all GIS. That's Geographic Information System. So it's
Jason, explain again Geographic Information Systems. This is related to GPS now, but GIS was around before GPS, right?
No. What GIS? So GPS has been around for quite a bit longer. GIS has been around for, like, I'm going to say kind of mainstream for 30. I'm going to say 30 years. And I say 30 because I can remember when the first GIS program started at Fleming College. And I think it was in 1992 or 1993, around that time. Mm-hmm. And so they were taking GPS data and figuring out how to accurately map that in a computer. Now, there's been agencies that were doing this, but it was in the early 90s when students could start to take a GIS program. But now, I encourage a lot of students who, if sometimes they don't want to do field biology, guys. Like, they don't want to be out in a hailstorm in October, freezing your hands off. But they're happy being maybe someone doing GIS, right? Sitting there making a difference. Just because they're not out counting fish doesn't mean they're not making a contribution.
So they're taking GIS's specific information about
Mm-hmm.
what's there at a specific point on the Earth.
Yeah.
And so you can pick any point on the Earth that's mapped with a GIS system and say, okay, look, I'm looking at this spot 25 feet out in front of my front door, and then you can see what's there, kind of thing. There's information, all the information that is related to that spot, what's underground, what's above ground, what's growing there, the soil samples, all of that, the rainfall, the temperature, average temperature, it's all logged in, all the information they can gather on that specific point.
And that's it, Scotty. So back to your question about velocity and bottom type, that's it. That's another layer in the geographic information system, right? So GIS is just layers. So you have usually your topographic map, and then you overlay your water layer. Then you're going to overlay my velocity layer. Then I'm going to overlay Jay's side scan data. And eventually you can create now, and this is all some of this is kind of new technology, like the Doppler profiler, even side scan, the way it's being used right now. It's not new technology, but how we use it is new. All of this can be done to literally, Scotty, we can start to better manage walleye spawning areas. I know that's what you're getting at. I know you well enough now. I know that's where you're at. Oh yeah, I know.
So as I understood it, not to cut you off at all,
Okay,
Jay, but as I understood it, GPS and GIS basically were developed or I would say invented at the same time.
More or less, yeah.
GPS had a more monetary value at the time because people wanted to map. People needed direction. So the mapping industry took GPS by storm, whereas GIS started to implement the 3D and 4D applications of what GPS has gone to. So the technology with GIS is now starting to catch up so that we can get that 3D and 4D imaging of some of our maps. But the fact that we can determine the speed of water in a river in a small little box like that, just
at different times of the year, and different depths of water, and then the water temperature. You think about all the water sampling they do as well, right? So that's all captured at a very very microscopic kind of micro sort of capture. This is tiny bits of location and tons of information on each tiny little spot of location on the map. So it's so cool. It's so cool.
This is so cool. And I would assume we're going to be doing, this is probably a pilot project, or are you going to be doing
so what's funny is that there's been different groups collecting different layers of data, right? So at some point, someone's going to have to glue it all together. And when we're talking about this kind of information in Southern Ontario, these are, let's just say, highly pressured fisheries, right? Because with just the sheer numbers of people around here. So being able to map these areas this way. Now the thing about this is, I have to stress this too. Remember I talked about like the image quality and things like that. It can't actually be done in water shallower than about a meter. The image gets too like blurred. So where we have to do it is we have to wait till either water levels come up where we can safely, travel, it's a meter or deeper, or there's just some sections, some rivers that just can't be done. It just can't be done. Like all tools, it's a limitation, it's like, there's not an Allen key for everything, right? So
but it's a good start. I mean, and then what you're saying though is the wetlands. These wetlands are still going to be mysteries in a big way.
Yeah, but I think what getting back to what Navico's doing, that's where Ray is like digging into that. He wants to know how we could basically map weeds, which is for me in my line of work, that's wetlands. That's like shallow lake and wetland habitat.
Yeah.
How can we map not only like the milfoil and the coontail, but like all the way from that sort of the weed line right to shore, right to the lily pads or almost up in the bank.
Right to shore, and then you can also take pictures of the shore and see what's growing on the shore as well, right? And that's so important. But I do some scuba, and I don't scuba on wrecks, or that's not my thing. I scuba. I want to know what's on the bottom.
Yeah.
What are the fish? What are the fish living around? Man, like you go to places like the St. Lawrence River where I do scuba and lakes, and there's like a lot of there's not much down there. There's just not much down there, just fish roaming around, right? And the odd piece of garbage, so the what we have with their structure, it's so important to safeguard and protect that structure, right?
I now you had me at scuba dive. Like Lawrence, is there no end to what you are able to do? Like you're in it's moving water, probably some oh wow, dude.
The person I scuba dive with, they have to bring someone to save their ass. It's a three-way thing when I do scuba.
That's funny.
Holy smokes! It just never ends. That's incredible. Well, lads, we have gone well past what we were hoping to. Jay, was there anything else you wanted to mention in your segment before we go?
No, I'm good. I'm just I'm looking forward to the nice weather forecasted on the weekend. Hopefully we'll get out and do some steelheading. So
I got a musky tournament.
That is the silver lining in your week, Jay, is the weekend's supposed to look fantastic weather-wise.
Nice. So
hopefully you're able to get out and enjoy. I'm hoping to do the same as well. I don't know what's next for you, my friend.
I got a musky tournament. We got the Kahuna Cup Saturday on the Ottawa
course
River.
You do. Yes, tournament fishing. Yes. Yeah. Nothing seems to stop either one of these two, cold weather, disabilities. You know what? They just fall to the wayside. As always, gents, thanks so much for joining us each and every Monday and sharing what has been an incredible amount of information. If anybody is interested in science scanning and the future of what it's going to bring us as anglers, make sure you invite your friends to listen to that segment. It was on point. As always, gents, thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it. Have yourself a great week and keep being you.
Keep being you, Scotty.
Right on, man. All right, Dave, it's on you. Take us away, my friend. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Thanks for the interruption to Facebook. Of course, YouTube looks like it's going to be the stalwart going forward. Thanks to all the sharing to Steve Shaw and for you guys for just showing up and spending some time and saying hi. It means the world. Dave Mercer, it's on you, bud. Take it away.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.